Boom. Hello. We're back from conference. I've been back for a while, but I just took a short break post-conference just to reflect, reconnect with people, and also just catch up. When you go to a conference for a week, you kind of lose 3 weeks in the real world. The week you went, the week of stuff you should have done, then the week catching up. Those are all things you just don't get back. So I spent the last week just catching up, but I wanted to do this quick video to touch on 3 things. I had one finger up, then I realized there's actually going to be 3 things. Post-conference reflections, just quickly reflecting on sort of the biggest takeaway from the conference itself. Number 2, a little bit of a reset that I think has to happen with the channel, and I think I'm going to say the brand, but I don't really have a brand, but I kind of do, so the brand in general. And then number 3, kind of what that means. So yeah, let's get stuck in. So first out of the bat, conference reflections. I really enjoyed conference. I think my view is somewhat biased. I haven't been to conference in 5 years, so I cannot separate the euphoria of meeting everyone again, people I haven't met for a long time, seeing them, engaging with them, and just having conversations I should have been having all these years in sort of one critical mass over 3 days. However much I can try and separate that from, the sort of objectivity of judging the conference, I can't. So for me, I think conference was great. I think next year I'll probably have a different view, but I really enjoyed it. It was actually really nice to, I think, go to the conference where I think even people who've been to more recent conference will agree, had already been through what I would call a couple of trials and tribulations. So the last 2 years, the conference, took some shots and it kind of missed, and it feels like this conference addressed much of that feedback. There's so much more feedback I'd love to see addressed. Some of it small as, making name badges a little bit easier to read from afar, all the way to just structural things around how the conference was set up. But I'm not a conference organizer. I'm sure the teams think about these things all the time, and so I'll leave that to them to sort of engage with. One thing I will say though is about the keynote and about the actual sort of keynotes in general. I realized when I was there that the keynotes are a production. They're not keynotes. What I mean by this is that the keynotes are done very much to be a recorded activity that is played out by many people in the community, that generates snippets, that generates content for marketing and social media teams to get out there for the next 4 to 5 months to really push sort of this statement about where the product is going. And so when you sat there in the room, it can feel like you're being performed to. And there are very few opportunities where actually you feel like you're directly being engaged. When I did my conference summary, you'll notice there are moments where in the keynote, Ryan calls out people in the crowd. But then it flips a switch and it goes into sort of the product vision and where the future is going. And at that point, they're very much speaking to the wider world, not just people who are at the keynote. And so for that reason, as someone who's there, when you're sat in the room, it can feel a little bit quiet, it can feel a little bit sort of lonely. Even just looking around the room, you can kind of chart these moments because you can see when people are on their phones and when people are really dialed in. You can see all of those moments. So, to me, it really stood out at this conference. And I think I always just remind people that, hey, I don't think everything we see in a keynote is designed to be pitched at you. Devs on stage, very different. That is entirely for the people in the room at that moment. The main product keynote, probably I'd say 20% for the people in the room, 80% for everyone else in the world who needs to understand what's going on with Tableau. Okay, so that's sort of the keynote and conference. The other thing I want to take away from conference, and I think this is going to sound critical, but it's entirely not. This is just a side effect of, I think, Salesforce acquiring a brand and a product. And that is when we talk about features, when we talk about sort of visions, when we talk about how you build the things that we need as analysts, there are sort of 2 places you can come at it from. So the first place is a place of understanding, which is I understand my customers really well. I have a dialogue with my customers that I've been having for a long time, and I understand their needs very well, and therefore I'm able to sort of translate their needs and convert them into sort of this really difficult space where, spoken truths and revealed beliefs can actually be entirely different coming from the same person. Then the other side is this sort of visionary perspective, this sort of idealistic world. You're building a capability for a future that doesn't yet exist, but you're trying to do your best guess as to what's going to be there when you get there and what you should expect. Now, Salesforce very much live in that latter world, trying to build for the future, trying to build for that end goal, and trying to do that in an idealistic way, which sometimes means you have to be brave and bold. You have to make decisions about today that you're not entirely 100% sure of. But this is sort of where my point really sits. Regardless of where you sit with both of those, the number one thing that guides the way you make decision is the intuition you have for the product. And by that, what I mean is, how do I explain this? If you've played a sport, let's take that. Sport is a good one because I think, most people have played a sport. And if you don't, you've at least watched a sport. Each sport has a set of rules and a set of dynamics that play out in real time, and how they affect the game. How they change the outcome. And without that intuition, you can't watch the sport and enjoy it. So what I'm talking about there is, in football and soccer, as you would say in America, in tennis, any sport you play, in golf, there are certain dynamics which, if you don't understand, make it very hard for you to enjoy watching and partaking in that sport. However good you might be, however well-intentioned you might be. And lacking that intuition means you don't quite hit that experience in the best possible way. And I think this is where I've arrived at when it comes to the product direction and development. I'm being very careful with the words I use here, because what I don't want to do is point a finger at a group of people, because things I say sometimes just get extrapolated beyond belief. But when you're picking a direction, when you're picking a vision, when you're picking an area to go with a product, I think Salesforce as a group, as a whole company, is still getting to grips with that sort of nuanced understanding of the mechanics that really make the brand tableau. Really small things we've come to expect in desktop, really small things we've come to expect in the browser, for example, using Tableau Prep or Tableau Cloud. There are some sort of learned behaviors, whether it's the way you choose a palette or the way you add a sheet or the way you do something, that are just intuitive, that if you don't understand those things and you don't bring them through in the new product, it actually makes the new thing feel very unfamiliar and very much not the brand of Tableau. Okay. And that doesn't mean to say you shouldn't reconsider those things and, understand whether you should bring them through to the new product. If you're building something new, you should also reevaluate how much of that old stuff should you bring forward. It doesn't make sense to bring it all forward. Some of those things were designed in a world where, I always think of Tableau being designed in the world where in HTML, tables were still a HTML tag element. Today, I don't know anyone who writes HTML for starters, and B, I don't know anyone who uses the table tag in HTML, nonetheless even understands HTML, because it's kind of being done by AI and all these automated wonderful systems like Squarespace and Webflow and all that stuff. No one really writes HTML anymore. So all of those things needs to be reevaluated. But if you don't have the intuition to know what's important, to know what you should take forward, what you should leave behind, and what can you sort of, deprioritize because actually this other experience is more important. If you don't have that intuition, it's really, really hard. And I think for the first time, I'm starting to see this play out in the vision and everything. I think this is the sort of underlying thing that really explains a lot of the decisions that I've sort of been frustrated with. And having gone to conference and talked to a ton of people, this to me is the number one point. This to me is sort of the number one, I guess, insight or understanding that I have around where these debates come from. We have all these discussions because we have a different perception on where that intuition should fall rather than what it is or how it works. So take that for what it is. To me, that's sort of the number one thing that understood. It doesn't Doesn't mean anything needs to change today. Doesn't mean, Tableau needs to go and find more people who know core better or not. That wouldn't actually help, because in a weird way, the only way you get better at the intuition bit is actually just working more with the product and building the product more and putting it in front of more people. So getting the betas out, getting everything in people's hand and seeing that feedback come back, I think there'll be a rude awakening in that process where you'll understand how little you know about a process and people's expectations of that process. And I think from there, if you can at least generate a good mechanism to sift all that feedback, then I think you'll be in a good place. So I think that's it. That's all I have for conference. I'm not going to revisit conference. I was really getting worried for a minute that I turned the channel into a reaction channel. This is why I just didn't post any videos either, because I had lots to say post-conference, but I just thought, you know what, no. If I do the 5 or 6 videos I was going to do, it's just going to turn into a conference reaction sort of channel. I don't want it to be that. The amount of people who I spoke to at conference who said, hey, I love the tips and tricks that you show, was really, really overwhelming. But it sort of rung home to me that people find you not because they're looking for conference content, not because they're looking for your reaction on something. They find you because they get stuck on something, they go on Google, and boom, they get you in the search. So we'll dial back the reaction content. Now on that front, I had a lot of reflection about the channel. I think I've done over 500 videos. On average, people spend 5 minutes per video. So just doing the maths, in my head, I always think that's an incredible amount of people to sort of reach out to. And, the videos can be short and long. It doesn't matter really about the length. The point here is that the thing about the length that matters is how long it takes to make them. And I think biggest revelation to me, at least, after asking how the conference was, after asking how the keynote was, the number 3 thing that people asked is about how to make the content and whether I did it full time. And actually, I think to most people, surprise, I don't do it full time. I think people who know me well enough know that I don't do this full time. I do this in a little window between 9 p.m. and midnight when I have time after a full day's work as a consultant. I'm at Aimpoint Digital. After being a father of 3, after being a husband, after being a friend and, family member to my close and distant family, after all those things, that's when I make content. And I just happen to squeeze it enough in there that I'm able to get some of this sort of output done. And the video editing and the production is actually a hobby of mine. So I do it because I enjoy it. I have a camera, I have all this stuff, and I'm just learning how to use it and make it better. You see the production quality. I see that as a challenge and a skill that I'm developing that I then put to use on this channel to sort of further the content. So that is all good. Now, that time is very hard to prioritize, and I think I've made a mistake in the last 6 months where I've just decided every opinion I have, I should put it in a video, when actually, in real terms, there's one big problem with videos, and that is people don't watch all of them. And people don't watch an entire video either. Very few, I think about 5 to 10% of people watch all my videos all the way through. That's a very small percentage of the 50 to 60,000 people who watch a video every single month on my channel. Majority of people spend roughly 4 to 5 minutes, and the average video on my channel is roughly 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the video. Now, I've been trying to make them shorter and a little bit more punchy, and those have worked really, really well. And so I've taken the memo and understood that more 3-minute videos, more quick videos, and also more shorts. Shorts are bizarrely very, very popular. They're very hard for me to justify because the format of the screen is not quite suited to sort of, I think, the way I like to record, but nonetheless, that is something that's going to have to change. And then a lot of my thought pieces, reactions, as you said, a lot of them don't have to be videos. A lot of them could just be written content. A lot of them could be something brief in a different format. So post-conference, I reflected on this and I thought, you know what? I need to make more impactful videos. I need to get the thoughts that I think should always be videos written and shipped, and not make the video. Just let those thoughts be written somewhere, share them, and for the people who really enjoy them, they'll still have access to them there. But I also need to meet this need, and this is something very interesting. The amount of people who I talk to who ask me an opinion about a topic that I'd already made a video on was very interesting. And I kind of would, a couple of times I flipped up the video and I said, hey, here it is. And they were like, oh, when did you make that? Like 6 months ago. I was like, oh, okay, wow, I missed that. I was like, yeah, it makes sense. You know, YouTube won't always show you all my videos. There's an algorithm, and if Mr. Beast turns up, it's going to show you one of his videos over mine. That's inevitable. But the thing I need to solve for is that I need to sort of start creating content in different formats. And I've put this off big time. I've really put this off big time. And the website is probably one of those things. Anyone who ever starts a website project will tell you that you always realize you've bitten off more than you can chew. And this is me with my website. I think I'm now a year and a half into trying to sort of update it, and I got stuck on fundamentally just how to organize content, given how many videos and stuff I have. So that project, I think, has to come to the fore, and I need to rethink it to think about a website that hosts both video and written format in a way that is easy to search and easy to find on the internet. So those are sort of the two things. There's also AI and a bunch of other things to sort of throw into that mix that are, going to make this super interesting, because I also don't want to just become like a content farm for an AI service. So that doesn't mean I'm going to put it behind a paywall. It just means I need to think more creatively and more useful about what is valuable to you versus what is valuable for a search engine versus what is valuable from like an indexing perspective. So you have to be able to find it, but you also don't want it to be designed entirely for the machine. You want it to be designed for the end user. So just playing around with different formats, different platforms, Medium, Substack, all of these things, trying to find a good vehicle for which I can send content out, some of it written, some of it video, some of it a static website, that's easy to use. So that brings me to my final point, which is this is going to take time. I think for the first time in a long time, I will probably only make the overview video of 25.2. I have to do this because I feel like I'm making better quality videos that are more important. The first one is I'm doing a masterclass with Kirk on the data model. That video, we spent 2.5 hours recording. It's taken me 10 hours so far just to get through the initial edit. And then I'm going to spend probably another 3 to 4 days total doing things like animation, polishing it up, getting all the zooms in. That to me is where the real value is. And I've seen this, lots of people make comments about other YouTube channels and other types of content they enjoy. And I think we fall into this sort of rabbit hole to think that, people sit in different niches. But I'm of the opinion that, look, I've demonstrated how you can make content, and a lot of people have stepped up and also started making videos. And I'm going to continue to learn from other people about what works, and I'm going to follow in their footsteps. So I will make long form videos more like Donabel Santos, try and go for the 40, 50 minute things. I will brand them myself. So with Kirk, we're calling this a masterclass. This is sort of, I think, how I do things differently. I put a lot of effort into branding. That's, I guess, just where I come from. But we're going to try and really go for some of these formats. There's a chap called Barra. His channel is called Data with Barra. He has a 24-hour tableau course. And I looked at that and I was like, my word, like that is dedication. But the thing is, Barra himself started a channel, and he was partly inspired by some of the content I make. Yeah, actually, at the very beginning of one of his videos, he talks about exactly that. And I'm hugely inspired that he's inspired by me. And now he's done something great. And now I'm going to be inspired by him. So I'm going to build off that. I'm going to build off that energy. And I want to really try and sort of go into this place where I don't think people expect me to make videos of. So you don't expect me to make a video like Andy Kriebel, or a video like, Data with Barrel, Donabel Santos. There's so many different people making videos and content now. I can't really pick out them. You don't expect me to do that. That's because I just haven't tried. And I think I need to start trying just to push the boundaries of what I can do and understand what works for different people. So the first way you'll see that is shorts. That's probably going to be the most immediate one. You'll then see that with longer sort of masterclass style videos. So you've seen my crash course in Tableau Desktop, hugely popular. I need to redo that for prep, desktop, server, cloud. I need to do it for all the core products and Tableau next. And then having gone through all of that, I'm going to be very sort of deliberate about how I group and structure content so that I can use those assets as I make the video to repackage them into different formats. So once I've made a masterclass on the data model, once we've made content, let's say on 25.2 as an overview, I'm going to be able to take that, chop it up, do a written piece, take that, chop it up, write something for Substack or Medium, take that, chop it up, maybe do a webinar on it. So to try and be more present in the community in different formats rather than just video, because I recognize not everyone is a video person. So I have to sort of grow myself, and I have to do more to kind of push out into those areas. And then a big challenge that I've set myself is I do want to write a book. Now, I've been so against this for lots of different reasons, but I think there's a way to do it that can really shake things up in the way that we write books in the Tableau community. I'm in discussions with a publisher, and I'm really challenging the publisher on the way they want to do things. I'm really challenging them, pushing the boat on what they want to do. Like, I went through their publisher contract and I tore it to shreds. I sent them about eight different things that were broken about it, and they responded. I think they've just never been really challenged on that thing. So I really want to change the way this works. And I don't want to ditch my principles about access and accessibility. I'd love to be able to write something that is both accessible, affordable to everyone, but also maintain, like, fundamentally free to certain people who still need the resource. So I think there's really interesting ways you can play around with the model, with the sort of the economics model around publishing. There's a few ways you can game it. And I think that's going to be something fun to look out for. Not anytime soon, but definitely over the next 5 years. That's sort of the challenge that I've set myself to take all this knowledge I know about Tableau and do something that I don't think many people have done, which is to give the genuine overview of the entire Tableau platform and a bit of the history in one place, in a really sort of nice, concise format. So yeah, look out for that. Look out for those thoughts. If I nudge you about it, please engage me. I'd love to sort of have your opinions. But yeah, I thought I'd do a quick video. No editing, just put this here, post it out, post conference. If you're into it, great. If not, that's fine. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts on some of this stuff. And yeah, we'll get back to making videos very soon. The next video will likely be this masterclass with Kirk, probably in the next week and a half to 2 weeks. So unless 25.2 comes out in between now and then, that will probably be the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.